Hello, it's Ginger's Greetings here on YouTube and on Instagram, and today we're going to be talking about how I failed Inktober before it even started. A little over a week ago, I posted a video about my plan to post a short for every day of Inktober. 31 prompts, 31 pieces of art, 31 shorts. It seemed pretty self-explanatory and like a good way to challenge myself to create more content. However, what I didn't expect during the very beginning of this challenge, basically, was to catch COVID. Yes, I caught COVID, for the very first time, I might add. I've always been pretty careful about COVID. Not as careful as some of my family, but even now, years later, I still mask up to go to the gym or the grocery store. And I'm gonna keep getting the new COVID vaccines as long as they're making them. I honestly don't care about getting COVID myself, but my mom already has long COVID in the form of literal scarring in her lungs. I don't want to see what happens if she catches it a second time, and I don't want to give it to anybody else in public who might be in a similar boat. I care about the health of others, surprisingly. Still, I have a part-time job that I don't mask up at. I'm an actor at a haunted house, and, well, kind of hard to act with fabric covering half of your face. Considering I just started working there and I just caught COVID, the power of masking has been proven to me, and I will continue to mask up in public even if I know I'll have a resistance to it. At least, for this season. For an added touch of irony, the day I took the test was the day I was scheduled to go and get my vaccine. That's bad luck if I've ever seen it. But now I'm feeling better, at least a little bit, and after a few just a little. And after a few days of frantically drawing to catch up, I figured I'd make a little recap video to share my progress with you, as well as the project I've decided to gear everything towards. Yes, the kind of recap video that I didn't want to make initially. Desperate times call for desperate measures, so without further ado, let's hop to it. I want to make a visual novel. I've always wanted to make one so badly that it hurts my soul that I haven't up until this point. As someone who loves art as a medium of storytelling, visual novels are the perfect medium. You can draw backgrounds and character art without having to worry about the large amount of illustration that comes with doing a comic. And for people like me, it incorporates a love for gaming in there too. That's why I wanted to make a visual novel from all the art in this project. I'm not going to get into the plot. After all, I'll be showing almost all the art over here, and I need to leave some intrigue. But what I will say is it's about an angel who's fallen to the pits of hell and has to make her way back to heaven. And, to her surprise, she makes a couple of friends along the way. Day one's prompt was dream. I knew dream was going to be a background of some kind, something whimsical and theoretical. I was playing around with some concepts, clouds streaked across the sky, an ocean sunset, but for me, I've always been drawn to this idea of waterfalls in the clouds. I'm not sure why, really. I think there's something otherworldly to me about a body of water in the sky, and since rivers split and meander in ways you could relate to a train of thought, I figured that'd be the best pick. Since this was my first work, it kind of set the precedent for how I was going to draw everything from here on, primarily if I was working purely in black and white, or if I would do a lot of grayscale, etc. At first, I really wanted to challenge myself by only sticking to black and white. I felt like grayscale would be too much like my normal coloring process, except, without the color. But I realized, trying to do that black and white shading, that I had zero clue what I was doing, and I wasn't happy with how it was turning out. I finally decided to bite the bullet and let myself use gray. Trying to get this challenge done as a busy adult is enough of a challenge, and I just wanted to get it done. Overall, I think I'm pretty happy with how this one turned out. Day two's prompt was spiders. Characters inspired by spiders are always so interesting. Specifically, they remind me of my Undertale days in high school with Muffet. There was a fan song for her I really liked that kept popping up in my head when I was drawing this, actually, so I wouldn't be surprised if my character here was at least partially inspired by her. I wanted this lovely spider chick here to be very blunt, flirty, and ready to do whatever she has to survive. I gave her this lovely little black dress with an open front held together by some lovely, webbed lace, if you want to call it that. I also dressed her with some web-like fishnets to continue with the theme and a cool long mohawk that lays to one side of her head. I was also initially going to give her 2 sets of eyes, but to be honest, I just straight up forgot to draw the other set. But I like her this way now. Spiders can in fact have 2 eyes, so now she has 2 eyes. You're welcome. Also, I don't have a name for her yet. If you have any ideas, feel free to share them if you would like. Alright, day 3 ended up being a bit of a boring background piece. It's a transitional scene, the area they get to between going from the pits of hell and the first real lowest layer of it. I'll probably either use it as an actual background, or I'll sketch the characters later to use it as its own scene. I'm not sure yet, but either way, it gets the point across. The prompt was path, I drew a path. There you go. I actually tried to draw this piece twice, believe it or not. I kind of struggled with composition, and everything I was drawing for this just felt like a bunch of lines. It was dull and boring, and I just knew I could do better. In the end, I realized at least part of my problem was being lazy. I kept trying to draw the path with one smooth line, but what kind of path looks like that? No matter how good my composition was, if I was being lazy with the main part of the drawing, it wasn't going to feel right. In the end, I think I really do like this one. It's still a little boring, but I feel like I cracked the code on it, and I'm pretty proud of myself for that. Alright, day 4 ended up being more of a block than truly dodging something, but that's close enough. For some context, this scene is when my pretty spider lady and Angel first meet. And in the scene, the spider lady is trying to eat her. Of course, she doesn't succeed, else there wouldn't really be a story for me to tell, but I figure that should help clear up what's really happening here. Having characters interact in a scene is something I've struggled with. I've drawn lots of character art, but usually any interaction is extremely minimal. One character holding hands with another, maybe hugging at most, but this was a lot more complicated than that. I wasn't sure exactly what angle to draw these two at, but in the end, I think having our main angel girl at a side shot with the spider girl leaning above her is interesting enough. I showed it to a friend who told me the whole scene reminded them of Greek mythology, and I'm extremely happy to give off that vibe. I wanted this scene to feel dramatic, but also to accentuate that these two characters are beautiful in two very different ways. The spider chick is supposed to be edgy and scary, but in that way of, oh gosh, she could step on me and I'd be grateful for it. Meanwhile, the angel is more reserved in the way she dresses. She's meant to have this soft, emanating beauty to her with voluminous cascading hair and wide eyes. I also made her eyelashes a heart shape because I thought it would be cute. Also, no, I do not have a name for the angel either. Seriously, I am winging this, okay? Get it? Winging? Wings? Angels? Okay, I'll move on now. Day 5, Map, is the introduction scene for my last main character, a demon who lives in cold climates. He's quiet and reserved in a mysterious sort of way, draped in a long cloak that hides his thin and slender frame. In this scene, the characters need a map to help them find their way, and it just so happens that this guy has one. How convenient, right? I am not sure how happy I am with this scene. It's not the drawing itself. I think that's pretty alright, actually. But the way I colored it, it's all very, very light. The background kind of ends up blending into the map, but I was too afraid to make anything darker in what's supposed to be a cold, snowy, icy landscape. Maybe I'll go back and adjust it later, and maybe I won't. But what I do know is that this is meant to be a fast-paced challenge. If I take forever to try to draw one thing, well, then I'm kind of missing the point. Not all your pieces in a challenge will turn out super well, and that's okay. You just have to accept that and move on. On the other hand, Golden was an easy reprieve. It was a bit strange seeing a prompt of color on a traditionally monochromatic challenge, but I knew what it meant for me, something that looked pretty and shiny and bright. Now that's something I can do. And what better a subject than the gates of heaven? To be honest, as I was looking up references, the thought occurred to me. The idea of heaven having a gate is so fitting to the idea some people have for it. I honestly think that people see heaven as some kind of gated community where they can go live in paradise and all the people they hate, for one reason or another, will just be gone. I don't know, the idea of heaven and hell and what puts you in one place versus the other is such an interesting concept as an atheist. And when you think about it, it kind of shows the ugly side of religion. Either way, gated communities might suck, but they're at least presented as these lovely safe havens. So I wanted to make sure it looked welcoming and inviting. I tried my hardest to make sure they looked shiny and pretty and tried to make sure it wasn't too boring. I didn't actually know how to draw a gate, so I looked up a lot of reference photos to try to get something that actually looked, interesting. In the end, I think I did at least an okay job, though the composition leaves something to be desired. For day 7, I had the prompt drip. I have a Google Doc where I list what prompt I'm going to use for what piece, and for this one, I knew it was going to be something towards the beginning of the game. I didn't realize when I was planning that I would end up using it for my establishing shot of the main character. Personally, while my image doesn't necessarily embody the prompt drip, I do think the prompt has changed the shot in an important way. I wouldn't have thought to make the webs covered in water droplets, and I think it adds something extra to the piece, a calm and pretty sort of serenity. I personally really like this work, and while I can see myself going back to edit some of the pieces while I'm putting together the final product, I think this one will almost definitely stay as is. And lastly, to catch myself on the week in a day that I had missed, we have toad. I didn't take this literally. Toads are like frog-like creatures, and instead I drew mushrooms. The reason I did that was because of, the phrase toadstools, if you will. It's close enough to count. It still counts. It has the word toad in it. These toadstools are meant to be giant. Like, this piece is meant to be looking up at like a canopy of trees towering above you, except mushrooms. Drawing the underside of the mushrooms was a little tedious, I'm not gonna lie, but it wasn't too bad. Also, I didn't record that one. I didn't record drawing this piece. Big oof. But you know what? It's fine. You guys can just look at it. It's pretty. I think it's pretty. And you all can deal. Without further ado, and because I am, again, my voice is having a fun time, I'm still sick technically, and you could probably hear it, I'm going to wrap it up here. These are all the pieces then that I have done so far for Inktober, and even though I did not do them, as I went, and I did most of these in the course of like 2 or 3 days, I'm pretty darn proud of myself. I managed to catch up on Inktober and draw everything I wanted to draw, and you know what? That's good enough for me. And I think this is just a good reminder that things are going to happen during Inktober. You might not be able to keep up on the challenge exactly like how you want. You might not be able to draw literally every day. You might be drawing 2 drawings in a day. You might have to skip a drawing entirely. And that's okay. You can even plan ahead if you want. If you know you have a busy day, you can draw 2 drawings in one day and then skip the next day. That's okay. I think the Inktober challenge isn't really about being super strict and rigid. It's just about encouraging you to draw. So that's what I'm going to encourage you guys to do. Don't stop doing Inktober just because you've had an off day or an off couple days or an off week. Just keep going with it. And, at least you'll, even if you draw only 1 extra drawing than you would have before, that's still 1 whole extra drawing, and that's pretty cool. This has been Kate, otherwise known as Ginger's Greetings, here on YouTube and on Instagram, and I hope you guys are having a lot of fun this month with all of your drawings. Hope you have a lovely day, and bye-bye!